Class, well, we're rounding it off to the end here. In terms of the discussion question about how are you going to save the malls of America, the first thing you should be thinking about is value. What is the value of a mall? Well, in terms of price, malls are kind of expensive, so that's not it. What are the values? Do we have utility? Well, sometimes a mall is convenient and sometimes it isn't. So it's not really based on utility. That's not what they're selling it for. What it has to do about is the experience, the emotion that you feel. Remember, malls used to be the number one place where teenagers used to go hang out. So if malls are about how you feel about it and the experience, the one thing malls have going for it is that you go there and you experience something. You're around people, you're around sights. Malls have lots of space. And so the way to save the malls, and this is just my suggestion, you might have other suggestions, but how do you make events at malls? Like one thing I thought was all these Sears have gone out of business. So you got this huge anchor space open. Why not try to make a deal with Disney? Disneyland is insanely expensive now. I mean, $360 for a 3-day park pass. And then you got to fly there, and then there's hotel and everything else. Who can afford to go to Disneyland anymore? Why don't they make mini Disneylands? Like just a couple of events and like the Star Wars 3D ride. People can pay like $5 or $10 to go in. And then, of course, as they go out, what do you have? The gift shop. And maybe you have discount cards for tickets at Disneyland, 10% off or something like that. And so that's one idea of Netflix land or whatever. But that's an example of how businesses fail. But there are lots of ideas to save them. Because if this thing had value, then the question is, how do you tap into that value and continue to innovate? Now, in terms of this week's homework, pretty straightforward. Come up with your brand for yourself. Now, question 2, a lot of students get dinged pretty badly. And how do they get dinged badly? Because they don't answer the question. It says, be explicit when it talks about direct. And so what does explicit mean? Differentiation. This is how I'm different. Relevance. This is why I'm relevant. Esteem. This is how people feel good about me. Knowledge. This is what's important about me and how they can learn about me. And so instead you write this whole explanation about who you are and everything else. And you don't answer the question. Answer the question, you'll be fine. Now, number 3, a lot of students get dinged because it says you have $20,000 to spend. I expect you to do some research. If you're talking about radio ads or internet promotions or something like that, how much does this cost? And the 4th one, again, is about discipline. That if you read the guerrilla marketing lecture, it talks about the factors that go into a guerrilla marketing campaign, whether it's surprise or interaction, the reach of number of people, those 6 things. And so the thing is, you don't need to have all of them, but then explain, I'm not going to have this, but it's going to be able to do that. Why is this a good guerrilla marketing campaign? That's about it for this week. Now, you have your final projects coming up. My one hint about you is don't loaf. Some of you have got A's right now, and I can't tell you how many times students have done a bad job on their final projects because they thought, I got an A, and then they loaf to the end, and unfortunately, they pay for it in their grades. 80% of this is individual, so you can't complain it's just your team. And so, yes, your team part's important. But be sure when you write your little sections, and I'm only asking for like 2 or 3 pages, you can write more if you want. What it comes down to is, do you actually talk about that topic? Like I've had students, they've had like talk about price, and instead they're talking about distribution. And it's like, oh, geez. And be sure that you mark your papers correctly. Give credit to everybody that it's due. If you have any questions, please let me know. And we're headed for the home stretch. Take care, everyone. Oh, and happy Father's Day.